To state it simply and boldly, those that reject God, all they are is a biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, opinionated accident with no rhyme or reason in this universe, where power dynamics are the way, hypocrisy is okay, and there are no absolutes. It's a foundation of chaos, corruption, and destruction that always leads towards death. People are not saved because we reason with them. People are saved because of the truth, and the truth sets them free. The instinctual nature of a fallen man or woman is to rebel against God and His creation. Evidence and reason can plant seeds and nurture what has already been planted. But it's the gospel message, the Word of God, Jesus Christ, who saves, and He is the way, the truth, and the life. There is an objective truth, morality, and authority that is outside of humanity we can observe and verify because of God. Those who reject God, their foundation for everything is just a chemical compound, a feeling. Rejectors of God will appeal to the objective, but the moment they are challenged, will appeal to their subjectivity. If feelings are their ultimate, rape and consent is ultimately the same. It's just how you feel about it. They will express their opinions about how other people need to change according to their own feelings, but refuse to change their own feelings when other people do the same to them. Just like a child, they believe their subjective moral system is objectively better than others until their feelings change. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is a biochemical. Their values, philosophy, and morality are predicated on feelings that change over time. 10 years ago, they had values, philosophies, and moralities about life they believed were correct. But today, they now have new values, philosophies, and moralities about life they believe are correct. But they'll just keep changing over time. According to them, they are an ever-changing biochemical that in the scope of eternity leads to nothing. That nothing is the end for all things, according to them. They will appeal to timeless objective truth, morality, and authority, attempting to change others' feelings, but when challenged will appeal to their own temporary subjectivity as the ultimate. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical and temporary. All they are is just a feeling that changes. There is an objective truth, morality, and authority outside of humanity, but they hold subjectivity as their ultimate. How do we know this? They vote. People vote to put who they want in power to set the rules everyone must follow, or they will be punished. Laws are enforced by power. If you reject the laws, they will force you into submission, remove you from society, or delete you from existence. Oh, but they'd love to say morality is just subjective until you disagree with them. Then they'll send someone else after you. It's a worldview where they believe they are correct based on feelings that change over time, derived entirely on circumstance. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God. And God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, and subjective. What they temporarily feel as correct is entirely dependent upon circumstance. If they were born in a different body, era, location, socioeconomic class, family, genetics, gender, childhood, and even made different choices, would still justify themselves as true because of their worldview. Which means, if they were abusers, oppressors, and molesters of people, would be justifying their evils as correct. If they were a rapist, they would justify their rape as good. They would justify their evil if they were the ones doing it, a reactive philosophy that justifies criminality. These rejectors of God will express their circumstantial opinions as morally correct, with the inability to understand the irony in their efforts. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, subjective, and reactionary. And yet, they will respond with an appeal to truth to conclude what is moral and express those opinions, but simultaneously believe all opinions are ultimately equal. But they will then respond with an appeal to more truth to conclude what is more moral and express more opinions, but simultaneously believe all opinions are ultimately equal. But again, they will appeal to even more truth to conclude what is even more moral and express even more opinions, but simultaneously believe all opinions are ultimately equal. When you press them on objective morality, watch their ironic downward spiral as they try to reject it. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, and opinionated. Due to the nature of circumstance, everything about them is just an accident, a roll of the dice. Their values, philosophy, and morality? Accidents. Their thoughts, words, and actions? Accidents. Their history, character, and concerns? Accidents. Their purpose, meaning, and intent? Accidents. What they think is right and wrong are all just accidents. According to them, everything about life is derived from a spaceless, timeless, immaterial thing that exists, that governs their very lives, but have a difficulty in believing there is a spaceless, timeless, immaterial thing that exists that governs their very lives. Accidental people with accidental beliefs in a purposeless universe will express their opinions as though they matter at all. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just a biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, opinionated accident. We live in a world that is observable and verifiable. We observe the world around us and describe those observations using words. When it comes to truth, morality, and authority, once our observations, descriptions, and meaning of things is exclusively subjective, anything can be whatever you want it to be. When words cease to hold objectivity, rape and consent is ultimately the same. Because once everything is special, nothing will be.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
They believe that ultimately all things are ultimately equal, but will use power to enforce what they believe to be true. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God. And God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, opinionated accidents with no rhyme or reason in this universe. The logical conclusion when rejecting God is that morality is ultimately subjective, which makes politics dangerous. People vote for the change they want according to their standards. When morality is subjective, what is good and bad, right and wrong is all relative. They'll seek power to submit, remove, or delete their oppositions of their feelings, what they believe to be true, from society. When words cease to have meaning, people can label their opposition as subhuman. This is how people justify abortion, racism, sexism, and social injustice. Once someone labels another as subhuman, you can do whatever you want to them. But for some reason, they'll believe it's wrong if you do it against them. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, opinionated accidents with no rhyme or reason in this universe where power is the way. Every single person has morals and beliefs about life. When those beliefs have a double standard, it's called hypocrisy. Logical, coherent, and consistent argumentation are spaceless, timeless, immaterial truths that are outside of humanity. Because of spaceless, timeless, immaterial truths, hypocrisy is objectively immoral. But rejectors of God have no foundation in denouncing hypocrisy because morality to them is ultimately subjective. They will appeal to spaceless, timeless, immaterial truths that objectively must be upheld, but according to them, morality is ultimately subjective. This is what we like to call irony. Hypocrisy is inevitable if there are no absolutes. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God. And God is the way, the truth, and the life. Those that reject God, all they are is just biochemical, temporary, subjective, reactionary, opinionated accidents with no rhyme or reason in this universe where power is the way and hypocrisy is okay. God is the observable and verifiable, spaceless, timeless, immaterial being that exists outside of humanity who has self-attesting authority and determines morality based on us abiding in Him. Which brings us to the final question. If there is no absolute truth, is it absolutely true that there is no absolute truth? To answer the question or reject it demonstrates objective absolute truth that by truth's authority determines morality.
If Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? The problem isn't here, the problem's here.
Which brings us back to the downward spiral all over again. This is a philosophy of insanity that leads towards destruction because of their hatred of God, and God is the way, the truth, in the life.